This episode of the Stockbury Dark is brought to you by Shop Shogun. Shop Shogun is your one-stop shop for the latest and greatest in punk, hardcore, and heavy metal merchandise. Officially licensed web stores from bands such as 100 Demons, Integrity, Disembodied, Madball, Agnostic Front, and many more. The Stockbury Dark, along with Shop Shogun, are offering a special code to discount your next order when you use it on their website. Use the promo code SDPODCAST to save 10% from your next order from Shop Shogun. Again, the code is SDPODCAST. Their website is shopshogun.com. Also, check out their page, Shop Shogun, on Facebook and at Shop Shogun Merch on Instagram. Hello and welcome to the Stockbury Dark. My name is Peter Morrissey.
I'm Klaus.
And today we have our friend, Harry Smith, New York City resident, Brooklyn born and raised. What's up, Harry? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Really good, man. Glad to have you on the show.
Very glad to have you on.
I'm happy to be on.
Now, before we start, I just want to preface it with... preface the story was, when we started this show, we had about a few episodes down, and Harry's a friend of mine, and Klaus has met him online as well, and Harry sent over this spectacular story, about some occurrences that happened to him throughout life, and both Klaus and I were really blown away by it. It was really detailed, really kind of terrifying. And, at first we were thinking we were going to start doing, because once we started this podcast, we started getting a lot of emails and messages to our social media accounts where people were sharing their experiences and telling us about really crazy things that happened to them. And we were thinking of maybe adding at some point listener stories to the podcast where people would write in and then we would actually just read them before or after our interviews. But Harry's was so good, we were thinking we got to get Harry on the show, and so here you are, a few weeks later, and just really excited to get into, everything that you wrote to us, and just talk about it. Probably have a million questions, and I have a good feeling our listeners are really going to love what you have to say.
This is a fantastic story, and it's a subject that I myself am very, very intrigued with. So I'm totally looking forward to this one. I'm just gonna sit back and relax and hear you tell these with your own words.
Okay. All right. So basically, I was at the time. This would have to be like early 90s. I spent a lot of time at my cousin's house, her apartment. Her mother was a nurse. She worked nights. Okay. And, it turned into like basically the typical neighborhood hangout where all kinds of kids were always over there. You know what I mean? Hanging out all night,
And this was in Brooklyn too, right?
Yes, in Brooklyn, in Park Slope. And so, all kinds of weird shit used to happen in that apartment. Okay. Like, you put something down, can't find it, then it's in another room you've never been in, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Before I get into that main story, one other thing that had happened one time that was also like pretty inexplicable. We were all sitting on my aunt's bed, right? my cousin, she shuts the light, and she looks in the mirror and she's like, Bloody Mary, whatever, like how everyone does that growing up.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, of course, when she does it, I reach over my friend and I fucking yank her hair. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Give her a good scare.
Yeah, exactly. So then she puts the light on. She's like, stop fucking around, whoever's pulling my hair. And we're all like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So she shuts the light, says it again, Bloody Mary, whatnot. I fucking yank her hair again, So she's like, I know it's fucking you, Harry. You're always fucking around this and that. So then she shuts the light again. She goes, Bloody Mary. And she's like, fucking get off my fucking hair. Get off my hair. So at this point, I wasn't pulling her hair. You know what I mean? So I jumped up and turned on the lights to see if maybe my friends was pulling her hair. And her hair was like sticking straight out. And
like static?
Like, yeah, like static. It looked like someone was yanking on her fucking hair. And like,
really?
The hair just fell to the side of her head. Like, so that's just basically how that apartment was. Like, we could be hanging out. And I'll crack a joke or someone cracks a joke and we're all laughing. And then when we stop laughing, the laughing dies down. Someone's laughing in the kitchen or the bedroom. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like stuff like that. I remember even one time we slept over and we shut the room door, like my aunt's room door. And we hung a shirt on like the curtain rod in the kitchen. And we shut the door. And then when we opened the door, the shirt had moved to the other side. Like it was on the right side and then it moved to the left side, and it's like the floor's not canted. There's no way it would have moved by its fucking self. You know what I mean? And who knows how many times shit like that happens and we just didn't notice.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It wasn't evil, but it was like something playing your tricks.
Well, there was an evil vibe because apparently, according to like the neighborhood lore, like in the 70s or something, an old woman was coming home because there's an apartment building. And apparently got mugged in the hallway and was killed or something. But I could never verify because this is pre-internet. Like, where the fuck are you going to look that up?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? But
just a neighborhood story that people
exactly.
told.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, then you had on the floor below there was like people I knew that they did like Santeria and stuff like that. Like which is big in Puerto Rican communities sometimes. It's like which is basically like a mix of Catholicism and voodoo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it on the show before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's real creepy shit. You know what I mean? And it's like for instance, I knew this other kid that his mom was big into it, and when you went into the room where she had this shrine, you just felt it. Like it felt wrong. You know what I mean? Like it could actually ooze off like some negativity, I guess. You know what I mean? But it was like so the building itself, like you had these weird things that would happen. So one day it was near Halloween, and we had the great idea. Like, let's make a fucking Ouija board, like you see in the movies, to fucking see if we can contact something. Like, you know what I mean? And then it's like, so, we took an old Monopoly board.
How many of there were you? Like that
let me see. Hold on. There's me, my friend Cito, kid John, my two cousins, and my other cousin. So it was like, with me, it was like 7 people. It was 7 people, So, but prior to everyone came over, like me and my cousin, we drew out the Ouija board on the back of a Monopoly board. And we were looking around her house, like what could we use as like a pointer? You know what I mean? Like whatever that's called, the planchette. So we're in her room looking, and then we hear this fucking loud crash. And she had like a ornate, like little handheld mirror that was on the kitchen table. There's no one else in the house. And somehow that got flung off the table. And then it broke into like almost gravel-sized pieces, except for there was like one piece that was pretty much a perfect triangle. So we got the heebie-jeebies. Like, I don't know, maybe whatever's here wants you to use that.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah.
Everything leading up to the story so far is like straight out of like a teen horror movie. A dog.
Yeah, exactly. So then it was like
just one thing. What's like? How old were you at this time? Like late teens or like early 20s?
I would say maybe 19, 20,
yeah.
maybe a little younger, But it was like I had like paranormal experiences before that, which we can get in after. But it's like so when everyone started coming over, like my cousin, one of my other cousins, she was too scared to even go in the fucking room because we decided to do it in my cousin Angie's room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was like, The layout of the apartment is you come in the front door. Right there is the kitchen. You make a right. That's the living room. Another right. I'm sorry, not another right. You keep going straight. Then that's my aunt's room. And then past that is my cousin Angie and my cousin Chaz's room. 2 rooms that are side by side. You know what I mean? So it was actually one big room that was converted into 2, if you can get that layout. But basically, if you're in the room where we were doing the Ouija board, we could see all the way to the kitchen if we leave my aunt's door open. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we decided to take it into her room. You know what I mean? So one of my other cousins, she was fucking petrified, like, and she was like, "I'm not fucking with that shit. Fuck you." You know, the usual. You know what I mean? So she stayed in the living room. Okay. And the reason I say that is because that's kind of pertinent, you know, a little while into the story. So one of us had read, you know, that you're supposed to open a window for like the spirits to enter. You know, like I had never heard that at the time, but so we opened the window. We started fucking with the Ouija board. You know what I mean? And it got really, really cold in there. And it wasn't cold outside, even though it was Halloween. It was a nice, warm Halloween. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it got really fucking cold in there. You know what I mean? So it's like we start doing it, and we got like a good, I guess you would call it like a powerful connection on the board, where everyone, of course, is you're moving it. I'm not moving it. You're fucking moving it. You know, it was like that. It was very. It wasn't like your usual like slow a. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was pretty strong. Where you could say like, okay, maybe you are moving it. You know what I mean?
What I love about the story is that it doesn't come off as if you guys were fucking around with it at first. You got serious pretty quickly.
Well, yeah, it was like, you know, we were doing it and we were getting like asking, you know, stupid questions like, "Are you here?" Blah blah blah, all this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you know, "Where are you?" You know, and all this stuff. And it was like, at one point, it was like, because everyone was saying everyone was pushing it. Then me and my cousin Angie, we just did it. You know what I mean? Like, we stayed on the board. And then people who weren't on the board were asking us questions to ask the board. Like my cousin's girlfriend, "What color panties do I have on?" You know what I mean? Like, my cousin wasn't on the board to fucking spell it out, and it spelled it out right. You know what I mean? And then, like, another guy would say, like, you know, "What grade was I, you know, when I had a fist fight?" And then it would answer, and he's not on the board. Like, I don't know the fucking answer.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
My cousin didn't know the answer, so it's just us two. But then we got, like, this creepy fucking spirit that was, like, basically saying that it used to watch my cousin undress, and it was in love with her. So she got freaked the fuck out. You know what I mean? So we got the fuck off that board, because then it got creepy. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, and at that point, it got so fucking cold, we shut the window. You know what I mean? And we also didn't sign goodbye when we got off the board, because we got creeped out. You know what I mean? Yeah. So one of the other kids who were there, you know, my former best friend, he was like, you know, he's the type of guy, like, "That's bullshit. Fucking bullshit." You know what I mean? Bullshit. So we were, you know, so we hatched this plan, me and my 2 cousins. Oh, wait. Sorry, let me go back a bit. As we were doing this, my other cousin, who was on the sofa, ran in and said that someone was jostling the doorknob in the kitchen. So you got a bunch of fucking, you know, 19-year-old men. We jump up, we go looking, you know, because it's not this is for Old Park Slope when it wasn't the greatest neighborhood, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure nobody was trying to fuck around. Go in the hallways, nobody fucking there, right? So now, because my friend, you know, he was like, "It's bullshit." Me and my 2 cousins, we were like, let's fuck with this guy now. You know what I mean? So we hatched this fucking plan where we were gonna go to the kitchen, okay? We were gonna set everything up again, and then my cousin Chet was gonna say, "I'm going to the store," okay? And then he was gonna fucking leave, and he was gonna climb up the ladder in the hallway to the roof and come down the fire escape. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And scare the fucking bejesus out of them. Like, you know what I'm saying? So we go to the kitchen, and we set it up, you know, at the table that's there. And it's like, and to be honest, like, I was being disrespectful to the board, and so were other people. Like, "I fucking dare you to blow the candle out. You have no fucking power." Like, you know what I'm saying?
And at that point, were you still believing it was something, though, and you were still being disrespectful?
It was a question of, I was one of these guys that I had experiences before,
Mm-hmm.
and not the greatest experiences with it. And I was also an angry young man. You know what I mean?
I understand that.
So you were pushing the limits and testing out.
Pushing the limits, like fuck this, like, and we had candles lit, and I can honestly say, with no windows open in that kitchen, the candles were flickering. You know what I'm saying? Something was trying to blow the fucking candle out. I don't know what the fuck. Like, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't a big drafty house. It's an apartment. Okay? So anyway, so we're doing this, and then my cousin goes, hey, man, I'm going to the store. So I look at him. Okay. So he fucking leaves. Right? You know what I'm saying? So about 45 seconds later, my cousin Angie's like, there's someone on the fucking fire escape. There's someone on the fire escape. So I jump up, and I'm playing it off. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, fucking, oh my God, what the fuck is that? And as we're saying it, my fucking cousin comes back in the apartment because he fucking really decided to go to the store and wanted to get money.
Oh my God.
So now we're like, what the fuck? Like, you know what I mean?
So what did you see? What did you see?
Well, listen, there was someone there. You know what I mean?
Huh.
So I took the fucking broom and I fucking karate chopped the fucking blinds down. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, boom. And it was like a black shape there. You know what I'm saying? And
how far away from you were you?
I was 4 or 5 feet
and
glued to the floor. Like, I couldn't have gone up. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, we see this black figure and we hear all this banging. And right next to the kitchen window is the bathroom window. You know what I'm saying? And it literally was like trying to get in. Like, you know what I'm saying? Trying to get in. And then it fucking shoots up the fucking fire escape ladder. Like, and the fucking lights start going on and off in the apartment. And you hear this banging on the roof like someone is wearing like fucking concrete shoes. Just banging on there, walking. And it was so bad that the apartment that mirrors this apartment, the lady came in and name was Sharon. What the fuck are you motherfuckers doing on the roof? My fucking lights and shit are going on. My TV's going on and off. What the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
And it's like, and we had no fucking explanation. And it was like my cousin picked up a Bible and just started reading from it. And we're like, and then eventually it stopped. But like 45 seconds it stopped. Like, you know what I mean? It like subsided. And then it was like, when it finally stopped, the apartment was dark. It was like the lights never, you know, like never came on. You know what I mean? And then so we went and we started fucking with the switches, and finally the lights came on. And it was like a path of fucking destruction through the apartment. Like, my aunt had all these ornate knickknacks and shit. Like, you know how older women have knickknacks?
Right.
They were thrown all over the floor and broken. And no one was in there. Like, you know what I'm saying? We were all in the kitchen. There was no one in there. And it was like, as the lights were going on and off, you could see from the kitchen all the way to the room that we were doing it in originally, and the window pane was shaking. Like, if something, we didn't see anything there, but the window pane was shaking. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, I had no fucking explanation what the fuck happened. Like, you know, as this was going on, when we were still in the room, one of the kids that was there, this kid John, he had left. He was like, man, I have a bad fucking feeling. And, you know, we're teenagers, like, yeah, whatever, dick, you fucking, you know, you pussy, you leaving. But he had called us and said, like, a black shape chased him home.
Oh,
yeah.
And he's banging. Like, and you could hear on the phone, like, he's like, oh my God, it's trying to get in. And we're like, yeah, dick, stop banging on your door. Like, you know what I mean? But then it was like, that shit happened. And it was like, there was no fucking explanation for it whatsoever. It definitely wasn't a person there. You know what I mean? Because the way, it literally looked like a shadow. You know what I'm saying? Like the shadow of a fucking person.
So how was everyone else reacting besides you?
We were like fucking British people, fucking gobsmacked. Like, you know what I mean?
Huh.
Like, what the fuck to do? You know what I'm saying? Because it's not only that you're seeing the shadow on a fucking fire escape, but there's all kinds of banging going on, and the fucking lights and shit are starting to go on and off. And when we went in the bathroom, everything was like fucking flung in the bathroom, like, you know, off the windowsill. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it had, whatever the fuck it was able to like actually physically do shit. Because my aunt's knickknacks were fucking thrown over. So after everybody calmed down, we kind of came to the conclusion, like, maybe because we shut that fucking window, and we were
trapped inside.
Well, or outside.
Or outside. Sorry.
Because it was like we kept daring it. You got no fucking power. Blow the candles out. You know what I'm saying?
At that point, were you starting to regret the way you were acting?
I did regret it. You know what I mean? But then again, it's like when you're that age, nothing can touch you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right.
It was like, I was scared to fucking death. Like, I was tearing up. You know, I'm not going to lie. You know what I mean? But it was like, I had that personality that like it was like a result, and it was like it just made me more fascinated. You know what I mean? And it was like in that apartment, like one of my cousins had told us prior to this, like months before, that he saw a guy on horseback. And we were like, what the fuck are you talking about, horseback? Like, you know what I'm saying? But then it was like, I don't know how many years after this, I bought this book called New York City Ghost Stories.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that the park that's across the street from this apartment, which is 3rd Street Park and Park Slope, was like a Revolutionary War prisoner of war camp where like they starved the fucking prisoners and all this fucking shit. It was like a, Auschwitz in the United States.
Right. So a very, very tragedy laden spot.
Yeah. So it's like now, when he first told me he saw a guy on a horse, I was like, yeah, okay. But then after reading that, I was like, I took it more openly. You know what I mean? Because
where was that sighting? Was that on the street?
He said he saw it on the street one time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was like, and it was like something that was like you could see through. Like it was like a ghost guy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't like a cop on a horse. It was like he saw a fucking horse come out of nowhere with a guy on it. And it was like fading in and out, like, and all this fucking shit. You know what I mean? But it's like, I literally, like, have no fucking explanation to what the fuck that even was. Like, you know what I mean? But it's like, I had, paranormal shit before that. Like, I remember when I lived at my old house on 6th Street. It was like a brownstone, so you have the vestibule. You know what I mean? So one day I'm leaving, and we lived on the 1st floor. My cousins lived on the 2nd. My grandparents lived on the 3rd. So I was leaving my apartment with my sister, and we see someone in between the doors. You know what I mean? We couldn't see the guy's face, but you could see that there was someone there. You know what I'm saying? So fucking immediately, because it's like, there's only family lived there. And my dad was a fucking paranoid Vietnam veteran. You understand? There's no way strangers are allowed up in this building. You know what I mean? So as soon as we saw this guy in between the door, me and my sister went back in the apartment, and we told my mom, like, yo, there's someone in between the door. So she comes out with us in the hallway. Now the person's not in between the door. He's walking up the landing to the 2nd floor. And you can hear the steps, and you can see the hand on the banister. You know what I'm saying? So my mom's like, don't worry about it. It's probably for your cousin. You know what I mean? Maybe it's a boyfriend. Okay. Maybe 45 seconds later, maybe less than that, we hear fucking screams. Okay? So what had happened was, because my dad went up, he was in a basement, he fucking shot up there. My cousin said he was sitting there watching TV, and a fucking man that she never saw before in her entire fucking life came in, stared at her, and then walked past into the bedroom, in the closet, and he's still there. So my dad went up there, ready to beat the fucking shit out of the guy, and there was nobody there. You know what I mean? And that's another thing, like, there was no explanation, because that definitely happened. You know what I mean?
How long before the Ouija board incident was this?
I was still a kid when that happened, and so I was probably like maybe 10 or something when that happened. You know what I mean? But it was like that was another weird thing, because the guy had like how do you say, like a lumberjack shirt? You know what I mean? And I think I recall reading later that some people see ghosts with like a fucking lumberjack shirt, that it supposedly means something or whatever.
Yeah, but, like a flannel type of shirt.
Like a John Fogerty shirt.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, but that was another instance that I have no fucking clue what the fuck, like, why did that happen? And it was like, and that house that we lived in at the time was such a traumatic house, because it was like, my dad had fucking 2 strokes there. He had like 40 operations on his hands since Vietnam. You know what I mean? And it was like, between that and all the crazy shit he would do growing up, if what, when you read parapsychology books where they say trauma and stuff in a household can attract it, there would have been no better place than that house. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, quite a bit of negative energy going on.
Oh, it was nothing but negative energy, And it like followed my family, because like when we moved from 6th Street, we moved to Prospect Park Southwest. And this was a fucking creepy motherfucking house we lived in. You know what I mean? It was a 3-story single family, but wherever you were on the fucking whatever floor you were on, you could never see around the stairs. You understand what I'm saying? So if I'm in the fucking living room, on the left-hand side is the stairs going up, and it's like an enclosed staircase. So someone could be standing there. You know what I mean? And then it's like when you're sitting in the living room and you look downstairs to the kitchen, someone could be just out of view around the bend of that staircase. You know?
All right.
But it was like that fucking house. Do you remember I mean, you guys are old enough to remember, like when you had a rotary phone. But if you had a rotary phone, right, and you also had a cordless phone, when you used that rotary phone, you would hear it clicking on the base. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And there were plenty of times that I'd be alone in the house and somebody's using the rotary phone in my mother's fucking room. You know what I'm saying? And it got to the point where I would not even stay alone in the house. And I was already a fucking man. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it was that creepy. And it was like one time, me and a bunch of my friends slept over. And we slept over in the living room, which is the middle floor. Directly above is my parents' bedroom. Okay? Now, my dad, he was in the hospital because he was having yet another fucking operation due to his service. So, you know, like when you have like those latch locks on a door, like it's like a little hook. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, like whenever you open the shit, you hear it swinging on the fucking door.
Right.
You know what I mean? So anyway, so we all went to sleep. You know what I mean? About 3 o'clock or something. I don't know what the exact time. I woke up. Okay, like completely awake. You know what I mean? Like if I never went to sleep. And I look around, and all my friends have woken up for some reason. So now, in the room above us, we hear these footsteps that are like boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, is that my fucking mother? Like, what the fuck's going on? But then, when it reaches the part where I know her bedroom door is, it just stops. It doesn't stop. It just keeps going through. So when that happened, I stood up, because I know when my mom opens the door, you can hear her do the latch, and you hear the fucking latch swinging, and it's a creaky fucking door. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we hear these footsteps, boom, 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 and it gets to the top of the stairs, and then it sounded like fucking 3,000 people running down the stairs, and then the alarms went off in the whole house, and there was nobody. You know what I mean?
That's wild, man.
Yeah, it was very scary, and it was like, there would be times I'm in the kitchen using the phone, and I feel someone pick up the extension. I could hear them, like, you know what I mean? Like you could hear somebody picked up the extension, and it's always that fucking rotary phone that was in my parents' room. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like somebody picked up the fucking phone. You could hear, and I would ask, the girl I'm talking to or whoever, somebody pick up the line in your house? They're like, no, I only have one line. But you knew someone picked it up. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you can tell when someone picks up the other line. You know what I'm saying? And it was like that would happen, or sometimes I would be alone in the house and I'd come home, I'd wake up and my turntable's on. You know what I mean? Like shit like that used to happen. And it was like, I didn't know, what to do with that, but I know where the house was across the street from Prospect Park, where I know there was battles there. You know what I mean? The Revolutionary War and shit. So I never, my regret of all these things happening, I wish I had internet back then to like thoroughly see what the fuck's going on.
Mm-hmm.
To get some type of, I guess, closure about it.
Right.
Because it was like that, that shit with the Ouija board, like I said, is still horrifying to think about because I don't know what the fuck it was. Like,
right.
I have no, you know what I mean?
Did you ever at any point think between these 3 different locations they were related at all?
Well, here's like my take on it, and it's like it's not something that I have spoke about a lot because it's not something that either you believe it or it's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? But it was like when I was a kid, because of the shit that was going down in my house, I was like an altar boy and all this fucking shit. I like when it was really bad there, like. It was a period that was really fucking bad with my father, and it was like I started to have weird dreams. You know what I mean? These fucking weird fucking dreams where, like, it was like voices telling me like I'm supposed to serve God and all this. You know what I mean? And it was like, I remember one time my dad was going berserk, and I was in my room, and I was laying on my bed. And I had my head in my hands. And it was like, all of a sudden, I don't know if I fell asleep but I was surrounded by this fucking huge white light. You know what I mean? Like this fucking white light that it was so bright, like I couldn't even see my hands. You know what I mean? It was just like being in a light. I don't know how to describe it, you know? And it was like, again, it was like, I don't know if it was a dream or whatever, but it was like there were voices saying, like, you know, everything you're going through is because God wants you to be on his side. He wants you to serve him, all this stuff. And I remember, you know, what I remember from it was I was very fucking bitter. I was like, I don't deserve this stuff that's going on. You know what I mean? I don't want to be tested. You know, I don't want this, you know. And it was like, I had that experience. I don't know, you know, I read about that, and people say that's what's called the beatific vision,
Right.
You know? And that's like the things people have when they get called to the priesthood or whatever. But it was like, during that time, like God, Jesus, whatever you want to say, was something that was completely real to me because of these experiences. Like, it was as real as this fucking iPad. It was something physical. It was something I felt. And when the nights were really bad, I felt comfort. Like if people were holding me in my bed, like, you know what I mean? And it was like, I literally walked everywhere hand in hand with God. But then what happened? I wasn't strong enough. You know, by the time I was 11 or 12, I was broke. I was broken by, you know, my dad. You know, well, I don't even believe in God because of him. You know what I mean? But it was like, when that happened, it was like waking up and you're missing a fucking arm. Like, you know what I mean? Because we're talking, this happened, that experience with that light was so real to me.
Was that a one-time thing?
Well, it was like that light thing that I told you was one time, but I would have dreams also. But that light thing, I don't know if I fell asleep or it really happened. Like, it's something I have no clue. I'm also, you know, I love to read and I'm not naive. That could also have been a result of some type of childhood trauma that I was going through because of the craziness in my house. You know what I mean? But it was like, but it was so real to me that I still, when I look back at it, I look at it as my life before that happened and after, and then the epilogue. Because by the time I was 11, 12, I was broken, you know, because this happened when I was like 7 or 8 or something. But by the time I was 11 or 12, I was fucking a broken human being. I wasn't, you know, I wasn't a normal kid, you know. I had this huge secret, you know. I didn't know anyone whose dad was in Vietnam. You know what I mean? I didn't have that outlet to talk to anyone about it. I didn't understand what the fuck, like, you know, like I'm catching beatings for some shit an Asian guy did before I was born. Like, you know what I mean? Wow. And it was like, so by the time I was 11 or 12, my dad won, you know, or life won. And something happened, like, because prior to that, I could read the Bible and it was real. You understand? Like, I could feel that this was real right here. Like, and it wasn't even a question I had faith. No, it was literally real. Like, it wasn't, you know, I didn't even need faith. It was real. It, like, gave me sustenance. So I could, you know, like, as corny as it, you know, it sounds like when you hear crazy religious people, I could have a bad day and read the Bible and it would help me. You know what I mean?
I understand but that. Then, it armed you in a way. It gave you protection, yes, exactly. Real protection.
Exactly.
I understand that.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, by the time I was 11 or 12, I failed, in other words. That's how I look at it. Like, if there was, like, say, some path to the clergy or path to sainthood or whatever this was, I fucking failed.
Do you feel like your faith was gone at that point?
My faith was completely fucking eradicated.
Yeah.
You know, it was like I would go to church and cry because I didn't feel anything anymore. I would open the Bible and it was like nothing. It was like a Stephen King novel.
It's such a crazy, like, those feelings from a 7 and 8 year old when it started. It's like really,
yeah.
You know, there's just something so heavy about that for such a young child to go through, you know?
Yeah, you know, and it's like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I always have to say this when I speak of my father. I'm lucky my dad is my hero. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, the experiences from Vietnam tempered any happiness in that household. You know what I mean? And it was like, and that's why I say when I look back at it, I don't know whether that really happened or it was something I projected because I was so fucked up and so depressed, like, you know. And it was like, but it's like during that period, it was like I felt like the more God loved you, the more opposing forces notice you.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be like, say,
so the test would get harder and harder.
Yeah, but not only that, it was like weird stuff. Like I would be serving mass, and you know, walking down, and it's like somebody tripped me, but nobody tripped me. You understand? Or I would be like in like the subway, and I would feel somebody's following me, and you could hear the footsteps, but there's nobody there. You know what I'm saying? And it was like I always thought that was like trials and tribulations, like now it put me on the map or something, you know. If like you're chosen, this is your childhood, you know, nativity thinking, like if you're chosen by Jesus or something for something, then his enemies are going to notice you. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, but by the time, like I said, when I was 11, 12, 13, I couldn't fucking, you know, I had contempt, you know, I was fucking angry. It was like, not only was I broken by it, but it was like, because I had this faith and then it was just gone. But then I became very contemptuous of it and very fucking angry. Because it's like, when you look at, like in the Bible, the story of Job, how he tests Job, that's like the most fucked up story you could ever read. Like, you know what I mean? Where he kills like his wife, his fucking crops, livestock, and he's just testing the guy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, when this was going on, like I was constantly saying, like, I don't want this. Like, you know, like these things that are going on at home, I didn't want. You know, it was like when I was an altar boy. I mean, I had friends who were altar boys. They're fucking praying. They passed their fucking test. They're praying that fucking, you know, their parents buy them something. I literally prayed for the same thing every fucking night. I want peace. I want one night of fucking peace. You know what I mean? And it never happened. And so, like I said, by the time I was whatever, 11, 12, whatever it was, I was fucking broke. Like, it didn't work for me anymore. And then it's like, when I became this person, or he won, or whatnot, every special thing that I got from religion vanished overnight. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like literally waking up and your entire fucking possessions are gone. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, and it was very heartbreaking as a young kid, because then it's like, that's when I, you know, I realized I'm totally alone. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, so I look back at it as, like I said, it's an experience that I rarely talk about because, you know, it sounds completely fucking crazy. And it could be crazy. You know, it could be me projecting what I wanted because of what was going on. But, you know, I file it still under the occult section in my head. You know what I mean? Because it's like, who knows? Like, you know what I mean? I mean, there are people who pray for someone not to get cancer and they don't get it. You know what I mean? And it's like, I mean, I always looked at prayer as like something you work at, you know? That's why like witchcraft can work, because it's like, you're just basically, prayer is like the way you're communicating what inner fucking strength or whatever it is that does that. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you know, when I lost that, when I couldn't pray anymore, I was like lost. You know what I'm saying? Like for years, I was just lost. You know, I was an evil fucking person. You know, I did all kinds of fucked up shit. You know what I mean? I ran with people who did fucked up shit. And it was like, but the paranormal, like I said, it's like, it's almost like, whatever you want to call it, the other side, whatever it is. It's like sometimes they pull the curtain back a little and you get to see it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you get to feel it. You know what I mean? And it's like, I mentioned that stuff with the light because it's like what you say about your out of body experiences. And it was like, these experiences were so real. It was like, I could give you descriptions. It was like, I'd be in bed and it's like person with like shiny white robes and their face, you couldn't see. It was still light. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know what it was. You know what I mean? I just know that it really markedly affected me when later on that stopped. You know what I mean? Like that it stopped, and that now I couldn't open the Bible and feel anything. You know what I mean? And like you have this supposed plan that's going on that you're supposed to do this, and then it's gone. Like you lost your faith.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no matter what you do, you can't get it back. You know what I'm saying?
Did you ever have a return to it or no?
Never. I've tried, you know? I mean, I'm one that I'm all into all kinds of different comparative religions and analysis and I went to see priests and all kinds of things and people of other faiths, other denominations of Christianity, and it's like, it's just literally like something that caught me one time and, uh, and it's gone. And I don't think, I guess the life that I led and the thoughts that I felt because of the trauma that I was seeing and the alienation from it. Because, like I said, I didn't know anyone whose dad was in Vietnam. I didn't know anyone who lived this life that, like, because I had this, like I said, it was like a secret. Like, no kids could come to my house because my dad could be fucking crawling on the floor speaking Vietnamese, reliving shit. You know what I mean? And it's like when you see Platoon, the part where they round up all the villagers in the middle of the village, that's literally every night in my house where my dad would fucking have flashbacks and all of a sudden I'm not his son, I'm some Asian guy or something, and he would round me and my mom and sister up, punch out the cupboards looking for the guns and the rice and
Jesus
stuff, and it's like, what do you do with that? Like, and it's like, and that's why I've analyzed that and overanalyzed it, and I say that's why, if that experience was real, that is why I failed, because when you have someone that you're with in your life that literally has no fucking accountability, okay? Because at one time they were normal, and then they went over there, and now some other person came back,
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, as a kid, if you tried to talk about it, you were ostracized. Like, how dare you say that about your dad? He's a veteran, you know? And so you can't blame him. You just wind up blaming yourself and hating your fucking life and your very existence and everything about life. Even if it's like fucking you wake up and it's too hot. The rage, because that's all you inherit. It's like, it's like I tell, like I have been to therapy sometimes during my life over that. But it's like, when you talk about, like, say, what a child soaks up, like, it's hard to function as an adult when the building blocks as a child weren't there, and it's like, I'm very patriotic, even though I don't know, when people hear that story, they think I shouldn't be, but I am massively patriotic, as is my dad. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, but unfortunately, in the house, it's not like a documentary where you see, like, on Hill 578, they stopped the communists, and it's not like that. The only experiences with war in my house were horrendous and barbaric and violent and evil. There was no heroism there. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was nothing, there was no lessons gleaned other than you can't do shit about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And that's it. Like, and that's your lot in life. And then it's like you try and eke out your own existence where you have a lot of the same issues going on, but you don't have your mom following you like she did my dad, where my dad would beat the shit out of someone in Toys R Us or something. He was in Vietnam, so the cops, but it was like, I was just a bad kid. You know what I mean? My sister was just a bad kid. And so I always have wondered, because of this trauma, is that why that happened? You know what I mean? Like, did I send out some distress call somehow and it was answered or something? You know what I mean? Because, like I said, I wasn't a kid that was into that or anything. Like, this is shit that just happened. You know what I mean? Like, it never, I didn't read, like, occult stuff growing up. Later on, when I was, like, 13, 14, then I was like, yeah, I'm going to fucking read about this stuff. But, like, when the majority of that stuff was going on, I literally didn't know what the fuck was going on. Like, I had no clue. But it's like, I feel that, I definitely do believe in, like, I guess you would say, like, the hereafter or the metaphysical or whatever people refer it to. And I think that some people, whether like myself, they were going through so much, for some reason, the planets were aligned or whatever, and the tumblers fell into place, and I got to see some of it. And I also think that there are some people that are just in tune with it, and through the power of meditation or whatever, they can get, they can see some of that stuff. You know what I mean? So.
Wow. We went into some deep areas there, here, and those
Is it too deep for the show? I'm sorry.
no, very heavy.
The opposite.
Yeah, but it's like, so like that's the whole, like I never, like I never understood prayer as a kid, like until I had that experience, and then it was like, I literally. It sounds corny, but like Raiders of the Lost Ark, like I had like a radio to talk to God. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like I literally felt like if I said this, God is listening. You know what I mean? But then, like I said, it was like the whole thing was like I just wanted that one night of peace,
Mm-hmm.
and it like never happened.
You could
And
never.
it still hasn't happened. Still, I'm still waiting. Like you know what I'm saying? But it's like,
Yeah, for you, it's an ongoing
well, yeah.
war of
I mean,
faith.
well, yeah. It's war. It's like it's a war of faith where, I emerged from my childhood. I'm not a glass half full. I'm half empty. And it's like sometimes you try to work on those things, you know what I mean? And it's like, but you really can't, because it's like, if that's what it's like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and that's how you thought since you were a kid. It's like, you can't really. It's like when Humpty Dumpty is smashed. I'm pretty sure when they put them back together again, not all the pieces were there. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And the thing is and I think is as a result of that, it's like when you see like the lives of saints. So I don't know how religious you guys are, but they live like these tortured fucking lives. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like for whatever fucking reason. Like, you know what I mean? Like just torture. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, and so you have to ask yourself, like I said, when these people are going through this, are they like somehow subliminally sending a distress call to somewhere, or is it something that's just projected? Because the power of of your own mind is ridiculously strong. Like, anyone who's ever taken LSD could tell you that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you could conjure up some shit in your mind and completely believe this shit is real. That doesn't mean it's real. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It means you got some type of psychosis or whatnot. You know what I mean? But it's like, so like that experience, like I said, I don't know to this day whether it was real, but it felt real. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But
Yeah,
like it helped me.
and it happened to multiple people at the same time.
Yeah, well, yeah, the one in the apartment, but I'm talking about like the stuff with the light and stuff. Like it
Mm-hmm.
felt real to me. It gave me some strength at times. You know what I mean? But it's like like I said, I file that under the occult section in my brain because
Yeah.
I just, it makes no sense. Like it's not something you could prove. You know what I mean? It's not something. Like like I said, I've read into beatific visions and stuff, and it's very, very similar, like the same vein. You know what I mean? But it's like you also see people who are religious fucking psychotics that they're just crazy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they just got the message wrong somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Or they want that. You know what I mean? But it's like I don't know. I've I've also like come to believe that for whatever reason, uh, I'm one of these people that, like I said, they drop the curtain a little bit and let me
Mm-hmm.
see some of it. Like when you have your out of body experiences and stuff, it's like for whatever reason, like it's not even something you could. They say you can practice out of body experiences,
Right.
but that doesn't mean you can. You know what I mean? Some people it's just natural. Like they go to sleep and they wake up and they're floating above their body. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? And it's like, it's like you're you slip into the water or something, and for whatever reason, that's what happens. And it's like, you know, it's something that completely fascinates me because, like I said, it happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
know other people's stuff has happened too. And it's like there's not even an open dialogue with, like, say, the powers of be about that. Like, you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like, there's not even a fucking. It's like you say things like that. It's like people look at you like you got a screw loose or
Yeah.
something. You know what I mean? And it's like, and it's kind of fucked up because it's like, what it does is it promotes you to keep it to yourself. And it's like, so you don't get any input from anybody. Like, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, or I've had that similar experience. Like, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And it's like, so like experiences like that have just like literally got me. When I meet people in life, like my big question really is like, how has life been for you? Like,
Right.
like what have you been through? And it's like, and I think that's why I've always been like growing up, it's like, people say, how do you get into punk rock? Like, how do you get into hardcore? Because I'm, it's not like today you hear a song. It's like, no, because I was fucked up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, me and my fucked up friends, for some reason, congregated together. Nobody wanted us. Or if they did want us, you didn't feel like they wanted you. You know what I mean? You didn't fit in, And it's like, for some reason, it's like that Lord of the Flies atmosphere. And it's like when I meet people, I have a hard time, say, relating to someone who hasn't been through some really terrible stuff. You know what I mean?
I understand that.
Because,
Like, how did you get into hardcore? I got beaten into it.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I always say hardcore punk is when you listen to hardcore, when you say fucking enough is fucking enough. You know what I mean? And you fucking stand up for yourself. That's not like, you know what I mean? Where all the rage that you feel inside that you can't channel. It's like me. Like, I used to have that argument with people who listen to classic rock, because I like classic rock too. You know what I mean? But it's like, I've always been a Black Sabbath guy, not a Led Zeppelin guy. I love Led Zeppelin too, but Black Sabbath, for whatever reason, the fucking horrendous lyrics this guy wrote, he's a butler, touched me. You know what I mean? Like, it touched me inside. Like, I was more like, Black Sabbath is like doom and gloom, and Led Zeppelin is like optimistic music. And it's like the same thing with people. It's like when I meet someone and haven't been through anything, I can't even relate to them. Like, I tell people like shit, like growing up in Park Slope. Yeah, we'd be on 9th Street. If the fucking train didn't come, we'd run through the subway tracks to Union Street because we were bored. And people, like, I tell people that, they think I'm like I'm John Dillinger or something, like, because they would never have done that. Like,
yeah, and things that are just like, that's like a blink of an eye for you, something very common. Yeah. And to other, exactly. I always say things like that where the most mundane thing to me, to most people, is like a once in a lifetime outrageous thing that they'd probably talk about for the next 30 years of their lives,
Yeah, it's crazy.
We've seen these things and done these things where they become almost, just commonplace, ordinary things to us.
Yeah, exactly.
And to the outside world, it was extraordinary.
Yeah, and it's like, and I always like, the perfect example of that is like, say, violence. You know what I mean? You have some people, I've been in situations where it's just like, I breathe to myself, like, now I gotta fucking slap this dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I have to slap him. Like, you know what I mean? People say there's another way. No, sometimes you have to do that, Because I'm not going home to pace my fucking walls. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's the same thing with, like, violence. Like, when you tell people violent things you've done, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And people who haven't done them, they don't know what the fuck to say to you.
Yeah.
Like, they really don't. Like, and it's like, my household was violent. My dad was a fucking Vietnam veteran, an infantry Vietnam veteran who fucking had his life destroyed by it, was not a happy guy. And violence solved everything in my house. And as a kid, that's how you react, because that's like how you were taught, basically. Like, you know what I'm saying? And then it's like when you get older, okay, I'm not trying to catch a court case, you kind of mellow out. But it's not even because your values of that change. It's just like you get tired, you get old. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to do it, And it's like, and it's so funny because it's like, and that's the disparity between like people in America today. Like, you have people who are overprivileged, and then you have the poor. And it's like, a lot of times you'll hear it's black and white, but it really isn't black and white. It's fucking poor and rich. You know what I mean? Poor and rich against each other. And it fucking will be like that forever. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's amazing to me, like, how if I meet someone and it's like, I don't, like, they led what I call, it's like when I got older and I started going to friends' houses, I was like, the fuck? People sit around the table for real? And the father's like, so what'd you learn in school? Like, I didn't know what the fuck that was. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know what the fuck you're even talking about. Like, what the fuck are you, like, are you kidding me? And it's like, and it's not to knock people who have that, because in reality, deep down, I'm jealous because I didn't have that. You know what I mean? But even though I didn't have that, I also have the acknowledgement. Maybe if I did have that stuff, I would grow up to be someone I don't like. You know what I mean? I would have been, some lawyer's son or some dumb shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's
well, I mean, through all this, it seems like you found your way, and
yeah. Well, the only reason is like because I still see I have a long way to go. Like, I'm not complacent. Like, like this whole thing with go to Texas, be with Whitney. It's like, there's a whole other chapter in my life. Like, I
Right.
was, I was married and stuff, have 2 kids and stuff, and that marriage didn't work out. You know what I mean? And it's like, I consider myself lucky because it doesn't happen twice for a lot of people. Sometimes love doesn't even happen once. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I'm lucky because it's like I hit on that, and it's like, now that's the next phase. You know what I mean? But it's like I said, it's life is a crazy fucking journey. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like, even like, you ask yourself, when you were 18, you thought radically fucking different than when you were 29. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
And it's like, and then when you have kids, that's the other wrench and shit. Where you think different.
That's
You know
the
what I
one that really changes everything.
mean? Yeah. And that's
Like,
what changed.
truly.
Yeah, like, that's what changed a lot of me. Like, a lot of the things, like, you don't want to.
Mostly with making poor decisions and,
Definitely.
and impulse decisions.
Definitely. You know what I mean? And it's like, luckily I've kind of regulated my life that my only impulse buys are at Guitar Center. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The other shit,
I keep thinking about, the experience we were talking about for a while with we were bathed in the white light. Um, it's such a crazy thing to me, especially at that age, for like a 7 or 8-year-old to experience something like so deeply moving, I would say,
Yeah.
like going back to like the first episode that we ever did, I had a very similar experience to that. To me, I was older, I was in my
Yeah.
20s, and I didn't look at it as any sort of religious epiphany or anything like that. But it was
Yeah.
a story where I was studying music, and I had a vocal teacher, and I stayed at her home. And one night I woke up, I think it was 3 a.m, and I had I woke up out of a dead sleep, and I knew I wasn't sleeping, and the whole room was bright, not really white, but more of a golden
Yeah.
color, and I was covered in it, and it was warm, and I
Yeah.
couldn't really see
It was
past like
comfort.
my appendages, and it was warm. I felt safe,
Yeah, it was comfort.
and it lasted maybe for 5 or 10 minutes, and I just sat there staring straight ahead, and just
Yeah.
covered in this like really warm golden light.
Yeah.
And I never, at that point in my life, especially, the religion was the farthest thing from my mind.
Yeah.
I've had some like bizarre experiences leading up to that, but that was the one time in my life I was feeling something like that, and I felt so safe. And
Yeah. It's almost like they shined a ray on you
yeah,
to see what you're gonna fucking do.
I've never really, outside of the first week, I've never really thought too much about it, except once in a while I'll tell the story of that, which led into other things, even at that house where I stayed at, every so often, but that one time it was just an experience I can't explain, most of the time I can't explain anything that happens to me, but it was like I said, that one time where I just felt really just safe. I wish I could have that happen again, because
Yeah.
if that was,
You want to explore and see what it is.
yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah. It was like I said, when it, to this day I look at my childhood, like before that happened and after, like, and it was like, I don't know whether, because I had really dark thoughts at that age already, like, I mean, and it was like, I don't know whether for some reason that's, I invented it subconsciously or it actually happened, but
Mm-hmm.
it was a way maybe to get me to not fucking kill myself or something.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it was like, I had spoke to priests about it, like, you know what I'm saying, and they said it was like a, beatific vision. That's how I even heard the term, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And they had told me that's what it was, and it was like a calling, and it was like, but it's like, it's funny because it's like, wow, like I said, while it was going on, it was so real to me. Now I look back and I'm like, there's no way I could have ever been a priest, especially when you read even an inkling about like the Catholic Church, like, you know what I mean, like the evil that they fucking do, like, you know what I mean, have done and continue to do. And
so like, sorry, go ahead.
So it's like, I don't know whether that was just like a calling to God,
Mm-hmm.
a calling to the church, was it something to fix me, or like, was it some type of medicine that I needed to just keep going the next few years,
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, it's ironic because it's like once the feeling left, the years that came were fucking so much worse. Like, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like they were just so dark and so, like I said, I literally felt lost. You know, I was a guy out of fucking control. You know?
Mm-hmm.
The protection went away.
Yeah, it went away, and then it was like, you know, I didn't know what do you do now.
Right.
Like and it's like I got this shitty fucking life and shitty fucking thoughts. Now I can't even open the Bible and feel good about myself. You know what I'm saying?
So fast forwarding into like the next few years to later years when you started experiencing these like apparitions and almost demonic forces, especially when you were like 19 or 20. Did you ever go back to that initial like time of your life when you had that experience and wondering,
Well, that's a
will this
that,
come back to me? Do I need to go back to my faith? Do I need to?
well, you know, I had weird experiences. I remember one time coming out of BMCC Community College
Mm-hmm.
at like at night school, 11:30, and I was walking with this kid Will, and even though I like I said, I didn't get any fruit from the Bible or any power from it anymore, or I still continue to read. But
Mm-hmm.
now I've read it like, okay, this contradicts this. This is bullshit. You know what I mean? And one
Yeah,
time I
you were basically looking for flaws in it at that point.
exactly. And so one day I remember it was so weird because we came out of BMCC and I was with this kid Will and we were talking because he used to do that too. We were like biblical scholars almost. You know what I mean? Because at one point in my life, and hopefully one day I'll go back to college, I wanted to become a biblical archaeologist because I was like, that's the job for me where I'm looking for physical evidence of God
Mm-hmm.
or story in the Bible. But it was like, so we were having this conversation and we walked through this alleyway on Chambers Street. And it was a homeless guy. And the guy fucking looks at me and he goes, you know, that shit you're doing is bullshit and God wants you to come back.
Jeez.
Yeah. And my fucking hair stood straight up. Like, you know what I mean? Because we weren't talking any of that around this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? We were just walking down the block. You know, and
So so random, but like it
yeah,
just strikes a
exactly.
chord with you because he's
Yeah,
right dead
yeah,
on, maybe.
exactly. But like I said, it was like the things that were going on in my life when I had this whatever vision or whatever it was. It was like, you know, PTSD is a progressive disease. You know what I mean? So it's like it just my life just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse with my dad. You know what I mean? And then when you know the things manifested in me, you know, the PTSD, it just gets worse and worse. It's like it just never stops. Like you know what I mean? And it's like I still wonder like did did that you know brief period, couple of years when I had this shroud over me, protecting me, or whatever you want to say, was that because if I didn't, would I have killed myself at 19? You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like, would I have already been like fucking enough is enough? You know what I'm saying? Because it was like when these were going on, you know, when that whole period was going on, it was like it was still nonstop trauma going on in my house. But at least when I went to bed, I felt like something was holding me in my bed. You know what I mean? Some like this was all for some type of reason. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? But like I said, eventually it was like I started to rebel against it, where it's like I'm broken. Like I, I don't understand why I'm being tested. I'm a little fucking kid. Like you know what I mean? Like I didn't understand. You know what I mean? But that's why, like I say, when I think outside the box, that's why I say like that could have me just be manifesting my illness because I didn't understand as a child the things my dad would do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
When I became older and I said, you know what, I can't go in a fucking DeLorean back to Vietnam and fight alongside him. I read oral histories, I read about PTSD, I read about everything. You know what I mean? You know, and it's like and I understand it a lot more.
Right. You
But
did all you could to understand it.
yeah, yeah. My sister, unfortunately's path was different, where she's like, "Fuck him, he was a motherfucker." Like, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And so she's not in a good place with it. You know what I mean? But it's like I was in the army and stuff. Like, you know what I mean? And it was like, you know, you learn a lot of shit and you see a lot of correlations. You know what I mean? You know, like why does your dad flip the fuck out if he gets no mail? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's like, you know, as a kid, because you know, remember, this is also the 1980s where Vietnam isn't like today where these veterans are treated like heroes. This was taboo in the 80s, in the early
Mm-hmm.
80s, you know, where I used to sneak, you know, like when I was a kid, my dad, the only medal he had was the Purple Heart because he fucking burned his shit. You know what I mean? Before I was born, and my mom saved the Purple Heart from the fire, and I have it. It's singed, like a little singe.
Wow.
You know, and so it's like on in 1985 they finally had a ticker tape parade for these veterans. You know what I mean? And it was like, I remember that was the first time like I saw my dad ever cry. I marched in the parade with him, and it's like these guys were so fucking damaged before the parade. They were like, if these motherfuckers throw bottles, we're gonna do this. Like, you know what I mean? Like they were plotting some vengeance. Like if shit would have turned south. But anyway, so it's like, when you're a kid, and you can even fucking bring up Vietnam. Like you can even fucking ask anything. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like I laugh when you see these guys who are by the wall that they're wearing like a fucking jungle jacket and a fucking boonie hat and jungle boots. They probably saw jack shit. Like, you know what I mean? My dad never wore fucking boots ever again. It could be snow outside. He's in Chuck.
Right. He wanted nothing to do with that.
Fuck no. Like, you know? And so it's like, so in my house, you couldn't ask him. Like, when you were in Vietnam, that was not a sentence that was uttered. Like, you know, he would talk about it here and there. And like I said, and because of that, and he had all of these, and, you know, he had all these outbursts and stuff almost nightly about it. You didn't understand as a kid. You know what I mean? Like you didn't fucking, you couldn't, not only did you understand because you were young, but you couldn't even probe and ask about like what the fuck is going on. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's like the VA didn't do shit. You know what I mean? They didn't do shit for the kids or nothing. And it was like, so like I said, so that's why when I think outside the box, I say maybe this whole thing is something that I had to project and imagine of something to get me through that time of my life. I don't know. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's like, I know there are people who had similar experiences, and you know, some people will hear that story and think I'm a fucking nut job or I'm making it up or whatever. But you know, it's honestly, you know, recalled as best as I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would love to have a resolution to it to myself because
I'm sure.
Yeah, because I've always wondered, like, had I not had that period, how much bad shit would I have done by the time I was 19? Like, you know what I mean? Like how much? Like I said. It was like the trauma still went on during that period, but at least I felt like some type of comfort. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, you know, I don't know what the fuck if I didn't have that. You know, like I always say, like, you know, I tell my girlfriend Whitney, like, it's like, I'm surprised I'm not Richard Ramirez or like David Burton. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, and maybe if I didn't have that experience, I would have. Like, you know, and it was like, you know, you run with the wrong crowd, you know, and it's like, you know, it's like when people ask, like, you know, when you hang out, like, when, you know, there were times I couldn't go home. I call my mom, you know, on the payphone, like, how's things? Oh, see if you can find somewhere to stay. You know what I mean? And so when you're out 2 a.m. on the street, the only people out are like fucking mafia dudes, stick up kids, like, you know what I mean? Prostitutes, like, you know, and it's like, that's how, like, that network starts, where now people say, like, well, I can't get normal friends. Because you know why? When I was in the fucking street, this person came up, saw I looked upset, and offered me a cigarette. You know what I mean? A bond was forged right there. You know what I mean? And it was like my best friend at the time, his dad killed himself in front of him and his brother and his mother.
Fuck.
You know what I mean? And he was my best friend. And it was like, you know, the tragedy. And that's another place when I went into his apartment, because they never had the money to move. They were, you know, poor, you know, first generation Puerto Rican family. And the room where he did it in, they kept like storage in there. Mm-hmm. And one time I went in there and it was like a weight pressing down on you. You know what I mean? Like it felt like somebody grabbed the back of my neck and was just pushing me down to the fucking floor. You know what I'm saying? And that was, that had to be like 1994, and this happened in the early 80s. So even 10 years later, and it had some type of residual.
Still resonating.
Yeah, like it had. It's like the you know, like those places are like sponges. Like, you know what I mean? They like they hold this stuff or whatever, like for whatever amount, you know, of time. But it was like, you know, you could definitely feel it. You know what I mean? And it's like, and I had gone in the room not expecting that, because I didn't go in the room that occurred. I just happened to go in that room. Mm-hmm. And then when I felt it, then like you know, when I came into that room, my friend was like, you know, that's the room that happened in. And it was like, yeah, I guess I do know now. Like, you know what I mean? Like I was able to fucking, you know, feel it or whatever.
Yeah. So here we are in 2018, and where are you now? Has any of this stuff followed you this far
Well,
into your life now, in the present, or
well,
anywhere that's closely to it?
well, I still have like a couple of other instances here
Mm-hmm.
in this place I live now. Like, I remember one time I was in the garage, okay, and the garage door was open. Not the garage door like that goes to the street, like the regular door that'll go inside your hallway.
Right.
And it's painted like you past the owner of the house. It's like a really fucking horrible hunter green, but it's gloss. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like the door's open in the hallway, and the light from the hallway is always reflected in the door because it's that horrendous gloss. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And, there was a time I was in a garage, I was looking for something, and I just felt like somebody was fucking staring at me. You know what I mean? And I looked, and the garage had a shadow. Like, that door had a shadow. Like somebody was blocking the light off of that. And I just happened to be right in the garage, right next to the baseball bat,
Mm-hmm.
Took the bat, like, trooped in, like 3 steps, I was there, and there was nothing there. And then when I looked, the shadow was also gone. But it was like I felt it,
Did that bring you right back to like past experiences, or?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it definitely did. Because you wonder. It's like, part of me feels like I owe a debt. Like a debt is owed. You know what I mean? Like almost like because I experienced these things, it was for a reason, and it's not finished. Because it's like you have your whole life for things to happen. You know what I mean?
I wonder if there's going to be some ultimate showdown as you move along, something to finally like just put an end to this.
I don't know. It might be. I mean, we used to run around in the graveyard in Prospect Park. Like we did a lot of, and like I said, I mean, I had this whole experience, this beatific experience, and like I said, I always felt that if the light's shining on you, everybody's looking at you, and that means the good guys and the bad guys. You know what I mean? And I don't know whether that Ouija board manifestation was a manifestation connected to that, And it's like I said, I had the experience where the person was walking up the stairs, and it's like, it was just like, weird little things that would happen. You know what I mean? Weird fucking stuff. And other weird shit. Like, I remember one time I went all the way fucking to the cloisters, like, way the fuck up there. And it's like, I went up there, and I fucking lost my wallet. You know what I'm saying? I lost my wallet. I had no money. You know what I mean? Like, no money whatsoever. Like, empty pockets. You know what I mean? I only had bills in the wallet. I had no change. You know what I mean? And then it was like, I went to the fucking train. There's a cop there. Dude, I lost my wallet. Can I get on? Fuck you. Go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? Typical New York cop, whatever. Right? So I went upstairs thinking about what I was going to do. And then I stuck my hand in my pocket, and it was a token there.
Amazing.
Okay? Yeah, it was crazy. Because I don't know what the fuck. Like, what, you know what I'm saying? Like, I have no clue. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, no fucking clue. Like, it's things like that have happened, like, there were times I'll get the feeling of dread out of nowhere. That could be a panic attack, who knows? But, even when me and Whitney went to, there's a place, we go to Galveston, right? I love fucking Galveston, There's this place, the Hotel Galvez. You ever heard of it?
Is that like a famous haunted hotel?
Yes. And
I've heard the name, but I don't know too much of the history of it.
So we went there, and we paid extra to get room 501, which is the haunted room.
That's your room.
Yeah. And so it's like, first thing, we go in the room, the little daughter's with us, her little, adorable daughter. She kicks her fucking feet off, kicks her little sandals off by the foot of the bed, right? So now we're like, we're all into this. Like, me and Whitney read up on this shit, Let's go in the bathroom because shit happens there. All 3 of us go to the bathroom, right? We're in the bathroom for like a minute. We come back. Now her daughter's shoes are tucked into the nightstand. You know what I'm saying?
What the hell?
Like, the daughter was with us. Like, we saw her kick I saw her kick her fucking sandals by the bed. And it was like being in that room. I never felt threatened, but there was something there. Like, and the story is that this woman who was in that room, she had a husband, or she was engaged or something to this guy who was like a seaman or something, like a merchant seaman.
Mm-hmm.
And his fucking ship sank, and she heard about it, so she went upstairs and she hung herself. But then it turned out the fucking guy survived the shipwreck, so it's like a doubly fucked up story.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like the legend of the room is that the woman used to sit in this room and watch, like towards the sea to see when he's coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And so, she's on the bed, Whitney, I'm in the chair, and we noticed that by the window, like, they have those sticks to fix the Venetian blinds?
Yes.
It's moving back and forth, like if someone is sitting there and just like absentmindedly hitting that as they're looking out the window. So I got up and I stopped it. The air conditioner wasn't on, you know what I mean? And as soon as I stopped it, it started up again. You know what I mean? And then so the big thing that happened, we had this fucking great idea where, I told Whitney, call my phone on Facebook, video, you know what I mean? On your tablet, and leave the tablet in the room, and we'll go to the beach. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
We're in the beach. Every, couple of minutes, we're checking out the feed. So I'm staring at the feed, and I call her over. Come on. It starts getting pixelated, and then for a split second, we saw like a girl's face, right? So then the bedspread got pulled back off the bed, and there was napkins on there, and they were thrown off. Not thrown off like from like say an air conditioner, which wasn't on,
Mm-hmm.
but it arced off the bed, like somebody threw them off the bed, and then the bedspread got pulled back. So I don't know whether the girl went to bed. Did the ghost went to bed when we left? You know what I mean?
And you guys were witness to these things.
Yeah, because we had the iPad. Her
Mm-hmm.
well, she has a Windows notebook or whatever it is. So we saw this. We were in the beach, and she had called me. Like we called my phone via video, so we had a live stream going. You know what I'm saying? And so we saw that as it fucking happened. Like, you know what I'm saying? And then like there's like we told the front desk about that because they would ask us like, has anything happened? And we told them that. And then like one of the bellhops was like, yeah, like 2 weeks before, somebody checked in the room. And he couldn't get in the room, and it was like they have a deadbolt that was locked from the inside somehow. You know what I mean?
You guys got your money's worth at that place, huh?
Yeah, and it was like, you'd be there, we go to sleep, you hear knocking on the hallway and the fucking door, you get up, you look, there's nothing there. I never felt threatened, but it was like there was definitely something there. You know what I mean?
Yep.
We, at first we were like, let's go out and leave the toilet seat up, and if we come back, see if it's down. But then we were like, no, but it could fall naturally. So we left it down, and then sure as shit, we came back later, it was up. No one was in the room. You know what I mean?
A lot of trickery going on in there.
Yeah. But it's a 5-star hotel. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, it was like being in The Shining. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
there's several spots that are supposedly haunted. Because apparently, like, in addition to that, they say like Galveston is like a super haunted town because they had a hurricane in like 1911 that everyone died or some shit.
Right. Yeah, a lot of tragedy there.
Yeah, and it's like we went to this other haunted house there that was really good, and it was like, it was like I said, it's something that I still am very enthusiastic about. You know what I mean? That I look into it. Like, years ago when I still had my Harley, if I was watching like something about ghosts and they're like in Staten Island, here's a haunt, I would just get on the Harley and go there. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just go see what's up. Like, do I feel anything? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's like I said, I think it's like, it's something that the average person, if they delve into, they'll see there's something there at times. You know what I mean? If like you have an open mind or you're curious, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I just wish it was something that wasn't as such grassroots, where like you could like say consult a textbook or something. You know what I mean? And be like, yeah, or like contact someone about it. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of the experiences will remain just pretty much inexplicable when you really want just explanations for it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Wow, that was great. Harry, you've been a great guest for the show, man. I can't thank you enough for sharing awesome stories with us. And, I know some of it got deep and a lot of personal history, but it was really, really good to listen to you and talk about these things, man.
What started out as dark and fascinating and very scary story about a Ouija board became the story about your whole life, basically, which has been very, very interesting to listen to. Harry, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me. It was a pleasure.
This is it's going to be a really good episode for people, and I'm really happy you did it. Can't say it again. And we'll be talking to you soon, Harry. When the episode's ready, we'll message you, and hopefully by next Friday, we'll have this out for everyone to listen to.
Cool.
So this is the Stockbury Dark signing off. Again, Harry Smith from New York City. Great story, great guy. Klaus, any last things you like to add?
No, just what you just said. Thanks, Pete, and thank you so much, Harry. This
Anytime.
was so good.
Thanks.
All right, everyone. We'll be seeing you soon, and thank you very much.
Good night.